Hello again. Here I am doing my bit on big questions and examining the people who come out on both sides of them. So today's question is this: should I leave the Catholic Church? Doubtless this will be a controversial one, to say the least. The Church and its history over the years has been an endlessly fascinating, almost mesmerizing story. It has been certainly never out of the public eye, probably since its inception, but certainly since the Reformation. There are always stories pro and con the Church, and it is very often at the center of communities, organizations, history, political debate, and so forth. So what we're talking about is a real force in the world, and one that certainly in recent years has stirred up an enormous amount of controversy. So let's hear what we have to say. Well, those who would say, yes, I should stay in the Church, will, number one, talk about the magic, spiritual, uplifting experience they have when in church. They find themselves sustained spiritually, almost hypnotized by the atmosphere, by the iconography surrounding them, by the sounds and language of the divine services. It's an experience which they wouldn't give up for anything. So that's a pretty good reason to stay right there. The second one is a similar one, which is to say that those who want to stay do so because they view it as a source of moral guidance. There are strictures on their behavior. They are required, if they have sinned, to go to confession and confess that, hoping, of course, for absolution from the priest. But at least there's some kind of structure that demands upright moral behavior. That right away is a pretty strong argument for staying within the organization and getting that kind of counsel. A third reason is to say, the Church is in quite a lot of trouble, has had a lot of pressure lately, and to leave it now would just simply be cowardly. It would be like rats deserting a sinking ship. Many eloquent statements have been made to the effect that deserting Christ while his wounds are not yet healed is the ultimate rejection of faith and moral virtue. Well, those are some pretty strong arguments, but there's some pretty strong arguments on the negative side as well. First among these is, I guess, the most obvious one, which has caused the most difficulty for longtime Catholics, and that is their abhorrence over the way the Church has treated the sexual abuse scandal of children. It's not just the priests who have behaved in a pretty repugnant way, but perhaps even more unacceptable has been the way their superiors and the church organization from top to bottom has denied the existence of the problems, hidden it, lied about it, moved miscreants around to different parishes only to repeat the process. That's pretty bad in itself, and for many people that's been enough to cause them to want to leave. A second reason is the simple one of intellectual obstinacy or integrity, depending on which way you want to look at it, of people saying, look, I don't want people telling me what to think. I mean, I'm a sentient person. I know how to formulate my own ideas, and living in a religiously and philosophically authoritarian atmosphere is just simply something I don't want to have to put up with anymore. Well, number three, some people would say that the claim that the Catholic Church is the only path to heaven, the so-called one true church idea, is a pretty repulsive idea. It's basically dismissing every other person in the world and suggesting that they are doomed to perdition. That's a pretty unpleasant kind of exclusionary view of the rest of the world. So it's a bit rich for the Pope to talk about ecumenical movements and sharing ideas and thoughts and prayers with the representatives of other religions when this is part of what his church teaches. So that's pretty awful. Okay, let's now get to my take. Well, I have to say to begin with, I'm not a Catholic, and so I'm not really qualified to answer the question as to whether or not I should leave the church, because I'm not in it. But I guess I can't get away with that so easily. If I were in it, I'm pretty sure I would leave for all the reasons that have been stated here. I had an experience a few years ago when I met up with an old friend of mine that I hadn't seen for many decades, a Catholic kid in my neighborhood in Boston that I grew up with. He was one of my best friends, and I remember having a discussion with him about the Baltimore Catechism, which was the little book of questions and answers that all Catholic kids have to memorize in anticipation of their confirmation into the church as teenagers. I told him that in the Catechism it said that because I was not a Catholic I couldn't go to heaven. He said, "Oh, that's not true." I said, "Yes, it is." And got a copy of it, flipped open the pages, and there it was. So my friend went to the priest and said, "Is it true that my friend Dave Sadler can't go to heaven because he's not a Catholic?" And the priest said to him, "Well, yes, I'm afraid it is, Tommy. That's really what the story is. That's what we teach." And my friend reported to me, this is just a few years ago, that at that moment he walked out of the building, walked out of the church, and never went back, because he saw that as a betrayal of his friendship with me and of a kind of rejection of most of mankind. So that's a pretty powerful story, and I guess you can see the way I come out on this and why I did. Well, gosh, that was quite an experience. But in any case, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a subscribe and a like, and hit the notification bell. Tell your friends about it if you think it wouldn't upset them too much. And thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye now.